Jambe, Devo Mali, Jomze, Sanve, Kanje, Kebe, Zoje, Zonga, Losan, Chabe, Shala, Sowa, Meme, Zeve, Deje, Jere, Time, Kembe, Wangbo, Jambe, Devo Mali, Jomze, Sanve, Kanje, Kebe, Zoje, Losan, Chabe, Shala, Sowa, De, Pande, Zave, Lama, Rimbo, Taso, Chivur, Benden, Denjo, Kadi, Chimbu, Kone, Cheso, Kusun, Toji, Wudu, Zenzo, Pande, Zave, Lama, Rimbo, Taso, Ningara, Benden, Denjo, Kadi, Chimbu, Kone, Chodan, Temo, Wudu, Zendo, Pande, Zave, Lama, Rimbo, Taso, Ningara, Benden, Denjo, Kadi, Chimbu, Changju, Ningbu, Ba, Dembara, Yo, Masan, Jume, Shera, Baru, Maje, Manga, Namge, Mobu, Sozo, Rani, Yiche, Juyu, Tuzon, Yewe, Changze, Lo, Deya, Tang, Gade, Bara, Samgade, So, Deya, Tang, Gade, Bara, Sam, Bodeye, So, Deya, Tang, Gade, Bara, Bodeye, So, Gere, Dongda, Jajo, Xewa, Da, Mede, Temba, Rosi, Pizza, Soju, Ne, Dash, Dele, Yo, So, Xinbe, Happy New Year to all. So let's take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived Bodhisattva motivation, we should all participate in this discourse on the wisdom gone beyond. So we left off in this commentary on the wisdom chapter of the Bodhisattva Guide. Those of you who have this English translation called The Profound Reality of Interdependence, translated by Douglas and Duckworth, we are on page 96. And where we left off last time is the subpoint 3, the way of presenting the two truths and the three natures, which are usually translated as three characteristics. So we will pick up from there.
Kirung Mikwa Tanya Badi, Kunzo Debe Mo in the Kunzo Demba, Zumba Tanya Demba no Tonjis. This was a Kaje Demba Nida, Dubama Higasha, that same song I said, and Sims of a Binji, Masashawama, or did it. Teacher that Yaki of the Yaki the Karas, the Yaki the Karas, Hijashagris. The young old Yikuza de Matuna Niaris. That when you knew of a Jerum, you make what Tanya Sigma, but there goes a Dema Shagris. Kunza Dembe go in Kunza Demba Zumba. Kunizu Tadu Mayu del Kunza de Vasiguda. Tanya Dema not Tonjis. Or did it? Kunza Dema Data Zumba you don't share. Kunda Dan Hyonge Dube Shunam sauce. Kunza Dema said that saying so good now, she say, because Kunda Hyong you do so now, she in the there is Kunda Dubes use. Kunda Dan Hyong Dubes use or did it good Hyong to share what that told the by the tissue what happened. Tana look the don't even show what he Kunda the Hyong Dube Shunam sauce. Namda Lanzi make what Tatu to Jew, should Tonda Debe go in the Tonda Deba. Shun Yundu, the yin so Tonjix. Saying a dame number in sauce. Dibe Lula, Tonda Deba in a rang sing. Choba Guajang. Kunza Deba in the job good day. Hyong Dibe Shen rang sing Choja. Kunda Shen rang sing Majavi. Zumba in the Zumba Matromo Gode. Hyoma de Zumba in the Zumba Matrope. Demba Trevi, so there is a Demba Trova, the Zumba Trova, the Kurza, Zumba in Chase, Hyoma Zumba, the Zumba Trova, Demba Trevi, it is Kurza. Zumba in the Zumba Tromogodi, he wanted Zumba in the Zumba Madraba, the Trevi sauce. Some of the below said, go in the Debatry Charo, he wanted in the Debatry, the Chagmaris. Then over time, she Demba Trevada, Zumba, she did this. Over years. In the Hyoma, the Zumba is she the Zumba is never Torva. Trevi, so. Then over time, she never Trevada. Zumba, she didn't do. She time she didn't the Zumba, she didn't this. She time she didn't do the Dembe, she didn't do this. Shuni Shembe, the Mashi Tangi, Zumba Trevada, Zumba Hidu, the dos, like Lezedo Somre, because Zumba Trevada, Zumba Yimasika, says, and Debato, Demanika, or this, because it's simple look she was already.
So as we talked about this already, that in every Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, Siddhanta or Dupta in Tibetan, presents two truths. So every school might have similar or different ways of presenting the truths, but nonetheless, in every Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, Dupta, Siddhanta, we find presentation of true truths. So that means in the Vaibhasika school, we find presentation of their version of the true truths, if you will. Similarly, in the Sautrantika school, Dodeva, and then in the Chittamachin or mind-only school at the Madhyamigans or the Middle Way school. So here, we are looking at things from the mind-only school perspective or Chittamachin perspective, Semsamba in Tibetan. And so according to Chittamachins or the mind-only proponents, objects of knowledge, Sheja in Tibetan, my footnote is everything that exists is called object of knowledge, right? Objects of knowledge are classified or categorized into two truths. Conventional truth, Samvritti Satya, Kunzop Dempa in Tibetan, and ultimate truth, or Paramartha Satya, or Tyondam Dempa in Tibetan. Okay? So objects of knowledge are the basis, and these are classified or categorized into two types of truth, conventional truth and ultimate truth. So the conventional truth is defined in terms of, being an object that gives rise to afflictions, whereas ultimate truth is defined as sort of the final object of the pure path. That's the ultimate truth. So as you find it here, different terminologies are given. They mean the same thing. For example, Kunzop Dempa, which usually we translate as conventional truth, right? Or I, in this, sometimes translate as deceptive truth. Well, conventional truth is one. And then the Junpa, which here is translated as unreal. The Junpa could also be translated as false, but I might translate it more as deceptive, okay, truth. Then the Tanya Dempa, here translated as the customary truth, but I would like to say it's a linguistic truth, okay, nominal truth. So all these terminologies, right, are synonyms. They mean the same thing. Whether we are talking about linguistic truth or the deceptive truth or conventional truth, we are talking about the same reality or the truth. Okay? And the kind of reality that can act, that when observed, it gives rise to afflict emotions. In contrast, the ultimate truth is Tyondam Dempa in Tibetan, and which is the object of what we call pure path. Maybe later on Geshe might explain that more. I just translate it as it's literally just read by the Geshe at the moment. So there are other terminologies which are synonymous with the ultimate truth, such as here translated as the basic field of phenomena or Ching. Usually I would translate as the sphere of reality or the space of reality. Also the Yongtu, which I usually translate as established phenomena, and here translated as consummate nature, right? So they all mean the same thing, in other words, right? Whether we are talking about the consummate truth or the thoroughly established reality, or we are talking about ultimate truth, we are talking about the same truth that is the focused object of pure path. In all Buddhist schools of thought, as we said earlier, we find presentation of the true truths, but when we think about the three natures, right, Ngosum, I usually translate three characteristics. These are exclusive to the Chittamachins or the mind-only school. Not other schools don't necessarily talk about the three natures here. Okay, so as Geshe explained, that, for example, when we think in terms of the three natures, Kuntal, the imagined reality, or sometimes I translate as intellectually formed reality, and Shenwang, other dependent phenomena or the dependent nature as translated here. And the Yungtuf, here says consummate truth, I call literally thoroughly established reality. Okay? These are the three natures. So of these three natures, Guintak and Shenwang, imagined reality of phenomena and other dependent phenomena. So these are conventional truths, Kunzab Temba. Okay? So that means they are deceptive truth as well. Okay? If something is deceptive, it does not necessarily have to be what we call false, or here, to use the translation here, unreal. Okay? Something can be deceptive, but it can also still be a truth. It doesn't have to be a false, falsity, if you will. Yeah, that's all I have so far.
Last. Because I do the more here, the end of Gasaki, Higa killing or the things of Nagasaki, symptom but the Rosu, 10 years of killing. The Mushrama saying something, daughter of a patient may say. But it did not get that the end is also Josumita, the Yiki, Yamaga, the Yiki, or but I thought the cows power to Shinda, because the no guy that the sense of what he was here was the in Josuta, Josebas, Midova, there was the Shidava, some of the Ronjuba. Think you do that. Some about the Ronjuba, tell you the Jidangi called Josan Chikbad Shagata. Dot the way in a car, dot the way to there was over the Shagara. Shita Margina, Lucia son, Rodilo, daughter, Mendo, the rest of Shagara. La Karza Jumbo, Lucia son, Sujan saw the Rodilo Doras.
No.
The Mendo, the Tozo de Mache, Doati. So that they did that, they go to them. Almost a carbo salary, told them as you
were. So Geshe again reiterates that in every Buddhist school of thought, we find presentation of the true truth. That means all Buddhist schools of thought accept this idea or the notion that there are true truths, right? But then, when it comes to explaining or presenting it, they may differ from each other. Whereas Vibhashikars or Substantikars, they present true truths in their own ways, but they do not talk about three natures or three characteristics for some. In contrast, Cheda Martins or Mind-Only School, Semzangpa, and Sevatantika Madhyamigans, Umar Rangkyupa, and Prasangika Madhyamigans, they do talk about the three natures or the three characteristics, right? So that's kind of distinction we find. Substantikas are unique in the sense, for them, every functional entity or phenomenon, we call Ngöbo, Bhava or something, is ultimate truth, right? Every functional phenomenon is an example of ultimate truth according to Substantikas. Whereas Vibhashikars, as we talked about, ultimate truth is something when you literally dismantle it or mentally dismantle it, it does not lose its perception, such as white, right? Whereas table is a conventional reality, because if you destroy the table, then there's no more perception of the table. Or if you mentally dissect the table right into legs and pieces, then you don't have a table anymore, right? So this is how different schools, they come to explain, the true truths.
충일이 셴베 드마시 충일이 셴베 드마 셴베세 드마시 탐시 ale zumba chabada, zumba hidu dosi. Odi chunyi de demba isi. Odi dosi dikta rikita kazu shadi semzabe ko tiri doa. Tata dengi tata shadi semzabe doa tiri sha.
chunyi de temba res zumba maris koroda.
Odi da.
Tanda
Tata omawe na chunyi demba du marwa. Shidum demi bichagara. Tanda ya chunyi demba du doa.
chunyi temba du inslo. No. So because we are of course focused on the presentation of the Chitta Martins and so among the three natures or the characteristics the chunyi ultimate reality or suchness or thatness, right, is truly existent, isn't it? So it cannot be deceptive. It is truly existent, whereas the imagined realities of phenomena and dependent nature, these are a deceptive truth or conventional reality. So,
Oh, did I?
Truly existent, right?
So,
The dependent natures are also truly existent.
Shewan de temba dublag marvesa.
Shawade Mutari.
Yes, you're right. The dependent nature is also truly existent according to Chitta Martins. Yeah.
Oh, did it? Otadi karsa dina jada dide semzabe luksor jiriketa dije ta semzaba da ronjiba da teyuzo ga gaja de te jan menjama de shoza jigbare todo deba toni ya guza deba dema guza bishagora tire ta jiba teyuzo na ya teyuzo zade da semzaba ni ya ronjiba teyuzo na sha se yo chi duadi 지금 내일 돼야 돼. 누가 가게로 용거로 추가가 이와도야 누가가 추르를 정지는 예고도 그래서 내제에서 시대에 이와이도는 예이야셔. 양 생이서 예와셔. 어디 이와 뭐 요도 왔다. 나도 심서 이제 내이야셔. 양 생이서 예와셔. 소명으로 어디 어디서 다다다 니 생이야셔 되리. 이봐 생이서 남자라 군다 희원 용주 섬시. 섬래 동북 군다 라 고네 쇼컬라 라 자도 컴 민다지리 고네 딱비 샤오스. 오다지 센데벨로라리. 쇼 카리네 ཁང ད་དོག དག་པ་ད་དོ ཤ་ཁ་ཡེ་དེ 이네 구다시그리스 다시네 시다타바타 랑기지 메라 생이지 메라 민데 샤즈이베 군다 히차오사 어데르샤 군다세고야세 코로랑 생이 마조시 민데 샤즈스다 이네 군다시고리스 야와라 도타 야와데 도타 지고데 예다 무다 쳬벌 나 도타 비군다 이데스 무다 비군다 쳬벌 구다 구다 시고 베네 소소시베 다지베 주키세야 주는 걸 소께와께와스 다지베 주키세야 디 쳬벌다 아니 쳬벌다 구다 시디 구다 무다 비군다 쳬벌다 구다 이 샹리스 다들 이와 가지 도다 그 이와라 도다 주지에나 무다 켜발다 고다 이데스 어디 무셔와도 속래나 속고 속스 명다 쇼가르 명다들 무다 마스 다 속겨와서 속부자서 체조해다 따서 켜발다 고다 하시고 속이 또 속지월 때 체조 못 잡아와요. 어디를 고다라요 되게.
So as Krishna said before that every Buddhist school of thought or tenets present their version of, if you will, the true truth. But the three high Buddhist schools of thought, Chitamatrins, Mindfulness School, Savatandika Madhyamikans, and Prasangikas, additionally, they also talk about the three natures or three characteristics. And but when we look at how three natures are presented in the higher schools of thought, the difference is in terms of how they have identified what is being negated or refuted. So in terms of object negation, they have different assertions there. So this is how we may find the difference in terms of their presentation of three natures. And so now here we will look at the subpoint 2 is the way of presenting the three natures. Of course, this is from Chitamatin point of view. So objects of knowledge can be classified into, we can say, two truths, and maybe from a nature's point of view, three natures, according to Chitamatrins, right? Because objects of knowledge are countless. So, but if we can somehow categorize them into some forms, then it's more manageable, isn't it? It's much easier to think about them. So this is how we talk about the two truths and the three natures. And so the first nature is called the Quintak in Tibetan. Quintak can be translated as imputed reality, or here translated as imagined reality or nature. Okay? So this has to do with how things in certain phenomena are merely labeled by terms and concept. Tra Tokpa. Tra is terms, Tokpa is concept. But if we kind of investigate the reality or the phenomena, they really do not exist the way they have been labeled by terms and concepts, etymologically speaking there. So Quintak, imagined nature or the imputed nature now, Quintak, can be classified further into two, like one in terms of the nature itself, right? Every phenomenon has its own identity, we can say ngo, right? Identity or nature. And then every phenomenon might have different characteristics, particular. And so the imagined nature can be explained in terms of a phenomenon's identity. I think I like the ngo, identity, better. For example, what is a form? Form has its identity. So that is, to do with form's identity, one imagined reality. And then what are the characteristics of the form? So we can say the form is impermanent, isn't it? Form is whatever the form, other characteristics has. So that's another imagined reality we can talk about, right? So the imagined reality or the nature is classified into the imagined reality pertaining to identity of a phenomenon and particular characteristics of a phenomenon.
Oh dear. Because the draw down those you got it. That go the Yenis, go the Yenis, Kurapa go draw those in the Ujish and Shagoro. Then go got the Shas and the Kurapa Shilla Paja and Shevina, and the thing you see good at number of Kundas. Because you get good at the so Dutch you say, do Nangasa, the Kasa, the number of Kundas. That's his I mean, get more said, you think you see good just it. You walk on the end, number of good thing you see good on use.
So now, because we have classified the imagined nature or imputed nature into two types, right? Identity nature and the particular characteristic nature there. And now, from the identity nature perspective itself, we can think about two types here. And now there's a long sentence being translated, so thanks for here. It's easier. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to translate right on the spot. These long terms here. Okay, so it says, the imagined nature of completely disjointed characteristics. The Tibetan terminology is called Tsinyi Yongshebe Kunta. And the second one is called the imagined nature of categories, in Tibetan called Namtabe Kunta. So in other words, in terms of the imagined identity of a phenomenon, again, we can look at two things here. Yeah. So the first one, I think, forget about the long terminology there, is all kinds of imagined phenomena, they do not really exist, right? And the example given is such as what we call the horn on a rabbit's head, right? Somebody can imagine a rabbit has horns, but they don't exist, right? So that's an example of the first kind, the disjointed characteristic imagined one. Okay? And the second one is the imagined nature of categories. Namthagba, I would like to translate Namthagba more as literally going with enumerations. Okay? Imagine enumerations more goes with the Tibetan word. So these are actually things that do exist, such as Geshe say, Namthagba kunta de la kenta yugen samasumurwa. Sukta namkalo sabu yugen samasumbe. Namthagba kunta de.
Namthagba yueba ganga namthagba kunta.
Right. So all the imagined nature of the phenomena, they do exist. So which are called the imagined enumerations of the categories. So such as forms, right? Forms do exist. So again, maybe I think if we can for a minute just kind of distance from this whole terminologies that might be kind of confusing for everybody here, including the translator itself. Just to get a sense of what we're talking about, right? When we think in terms of imagined nature from the identity perspective, right? Every phenomenon is identity. That's two kinds. Imagined identity, due to superimposition by terms and concept, but they really don't exist. Such as a barren woman's son or a daughter. Well, barren woman never gives a birth, right? So what's a barren woman's son and daughter? It's an imagined thing. Or that horns on a rabbit's head. Okay, rabbit has 2 long ears. Well, they have a horn now. So that's imagined one, but they don't exist, isn't it? But the second one are imagined nature, but they do exist, right? The forms, for example, right? Forms are imagined reality, but they do exist, Or the space, that does exist. Right? No. Hope that makes it simplified rather than going with the terminology too long. Yeah.
Kundaji penny gundrile, nange medo rasunda. Then toba tabatam paying, Hijal means payment says do. Tere Kunda nange medo does a Himajimata does a dagans, Kore get usually because Nangata does a some your decade here. Karsa gundrile, Kunda nange medo rasundas. So nange medo said correct. Nange medo Sachita Yomarwa.
No.
Tanda nange medo meva nashi Kunda Yomar city, Rekesha, Pedon Tereja Marisi. Nange medo de Tobatavata even nashi Kunda, the Tobatavata is love, runs it over 1,000 love rapes. What is that?
So in this text, examples of the imagined identity nature, which are really superimposed, but they don't exist, are the two selves, isn't it? Self of a person, a self of phenomena. These are superimposed, but they don't exist at all, isn't it? So whereas the other imagined identity nature, such as forms, they do exist. They are not just superimposition, but they also do exist, isn't it? And so then, sometimes there are expressions like this, that dependent phenomena are like a mirage. Consummate truth or reality are like space, infinite space. And imagined reality is like a space flower, isn't it? And so when we say imagined reality is like a space flower, we're just only looking at the level of superimposition, isn't it? There are no flowers in the space, right? But we can still label them, isn't it? But we must not think that every imagined reality does not exist at all. That's not the meaning. It only means that it's superimposition. Just like space flower is superimposed, then all the imagined realities are superimposed. But among them, there are those that exist, and there are those that don't exist, you know. Okay.
어디 다니바 형사의 그래서 형은 뭐랑 유전에 좀 거보스 형은 거보면 저거라 다시니 제제 현상을 게 걔네 계시리 라바 네베 랑어미베는 형이 자오스 그 제사를 제야 돼 신의 제고 아니 그 윤지도부터 그 형 제사를 남선 지구로 그 딱된데 디메사 인디 형와스 그 제야 돼 현상이 가야 돼 이거 가도로 현상 형와스 디지리스
And now we are on page 98, right on the top. Those who have this translation, we are talking about the Shenwang, the dependent nature or the other dependent nature, as we say, Shenwang. And so it is, defined as, a reality that comes into being depending upon others, and a reality that does not exist unchanged in its second moments of existence. Are you with me? It's called technical here, right? So it is like say, there are a lot of realities. For them to come into existence, to be produced, they are dependent on other things, isn't it? Okay? Because they cannot exist on their own. They have to be produced by other conditions and things. But in its second moment of existence, they do not remain unchanged, isn't it? Because in the second moment, the first moment ceases to exist. So such realities or phenomena are called the dependent nature or Shenwang.
어디 얘네들 답에 형하다 마다 형식도 어디서 답은 코에니에도 마다 형식 상지 형부터 답에 형식으로 어디서 형다.
So other the dependent nature again can be classified into madhava, impure dependent nature, and pure dependent nature. Right? The impure dependent nature, example would be the samsaric environment, right, which is fraught with, as we know, it shall be never said drama ramas there. So that, and the pure dependent nature is the Buddha environment, right, the Buddha field, in other words.
어디 당원에 파베냠 샤이게다 게다 타베 형도 샤로 파베냠 샤나 지과다 거지 파베냠 샤이게다 네 타베 셈베다부 셈베스는 상시 세대 베시시고로 어디에 지지바다 다니바 마다 누지 된다 사지에 보고 대다게 줄 리유다 보스 어디에 마다서 되리스 빼니 되게 유마다 저 송데 이징소 라가 기타바 나 따라 소마저자 나와 현주 시원 송지 정세의 마저자 마저 야다 많이 군도 온게 대단한 was 송지 정세에서는 선서 송지 가서 최대 10회 단위에서 송지 정세 마저서 어제도 송지 정세 나와서 되게 그래서当然就是希望从这讲些的我这家让他们工作给他弄好到吧工作是到吧老师希望从这讲些的老头的我的效果也是我的事情
So the examples given here in the text for pure and impure other dependent nature, right? The pure, they give the example of the Arya path, transcendental path in the meditative state, or they talk about Buddha's major and minor signs of enlightenment. So these are the examples of pure other dependent nature. The impure other dependent nature examples given here are our contaminated sugandhas or the aggregates, right? Contaminated body and mind, or the contaminated samsaric environment. So these are the examples of impure dependent nature. And so dependent nature are like an illusion, right? Yuma, Maya. And so again here the example of how a magician creates out of pebbles and twigs, elephants and horses and maybe any other animals. And they appear as real animals, but they are just illusion, right? They are not real horses and elephants. And so according to Chitta Matrins, that there are no external objects, isn't it? You know, for our perception, looks like things are dualistic, right? There are things out there, and then here's somebody perceiving them. Looks like there are two things, but in reality, there are no external objects, right? Everything is in the nature of perception, isn't it? So what looks like dualistic, it's like an illusion. Look, that's how they exist, but in reality, they don't. They are in the nature of the perception itself. So therefore, they are like an illusion, magical illusion.
What the Karsa, your summa yuro the good Dani Karsa, Dangji, Dani is a daughter, Matar to Tibet Tombadi. The thing is, Kansa, daughter, Matar Tombe, Tombadi, Kansa, Damian, Shuyo. Shui does this, daughter, what the Tombotoni, Tombadi, Shui does me on Shuyo. So the card of Shui, when is the Kansa, Damian, Shuyo said, Ranjit was the Tombotoma. The one is the Yondo, the Marigo. Kutoni Marawa, seems the Mizilla. Ranju Mizigan had the Kasha or the or this the Shadon about the Yahisi was.
Intended the Castle, the Casada Tame, the Yunduki, Sensha Rawagi.
Oh, those the means that Kansa Ranja, the Teyo Naji, Chibasha Marva, Gata Kasha or Kasada was the Kansa Ranja, the usual Tomasha. Sure, there is the dagger, should I got but she's a car hero. But tell you in a Chusha was Shama, the Kansa Ranja, don't Kansa damage. Pungo say, don't shoot damage. Gata Cheva Marva.
No.
But that's simple, because Roger Music, what the Kasada made that the Cheva Sharo did it. Tell you in the day, she was she, the Gata was Sheva Marva, she was Shagara.
No. So now we will talk about what we call thoroughly established reality or yongdu, which literally, as the Tibetan says, or the consummate nature, as translated here. Okay? So this is, actually what we call the ultimate reality or the truth here. And examples given here are the two selflessnesses, right? We can establish the selflessness of a person by way of negating the self superimposed upon a person, isn't it? And we can establish the selflessness of phenomena by getting rid of that superimposition, So the two selflessnesses are examples of what we call yongdu, thoroughly established reality or consummate nature here. As Geshe reminding us that again, when we look into the things, there are complexity here because for Sevatantra Madhyamikans and Chitta Matrins, the two selflessnesses are not one and the same thing, isn't it? They are of different kind. Selflessness of a person is defined in terms of lack of self-sufficient, substantially existent person. Right? The selflessness of phenomena is defined differently. Whereas Pasangikas, right, is the same. Right? The selflessness of the person and selflessness of phenomena are exactly the same. The only difference is the basis upon which it's established. So there's that complexity that we have to remember there.
What the thing is, don't what they Geshe Hindi Munjua, the school, that was the machine. Namda does make what I do. Namda was the Tony was the Pagwell. Timmy what I do, so then this was. Namda is make what I do. How to Imata. Geshe Tamsi, Show, Geshe 那么说就是那要求的说一遍呢，人用着是个历史，这条也呢，考察他们要就用着的，去的就是你是他的呀，一家人没写的，本身就是考察单位的，但是没凭什么知道，用着就嘛的考察单位要就用的么的，这用着真有些嘛是吧？
Participate Beijing Garson again.
那
Beijing Garson back.
北京个，在这抗战他们按这个用着地的，用着真也蛮少的，用着真也把那东西有个少是吧？我的，他容易没这个事的。我的。你那基本上晓得吧？
So etymologically speaking, we say Yongdup, thoroughly established or consummate. What it really implies is these two things. Number one, Shantideva, it has a sense of immutability, unchanging into something, right? Because it's permanent, right? Permanents don't change into anything. That's one. And the second one is that, consummate nature or thoroughly established nature is the final object of the focus of, as we said, pure path. The pure path refers to the path of liberation, right? If we want to be liberated, then our focus should be the consummate nature, right? Because that is the final focus of path of liberation. That's the sense of that. So of course, Geshe always brings complexities. I have to double check if I heard it right or wrong, right? The things we presented here are slightly different if we look from some other perspectives. Here we said that both selflessnesses are the examples of consummate nature, isn't it? But then if we look into some other perspective like Penjin, right, we'll say that selflessness as a person is really not a consummate nature. He said the consummate nature has to be emptiness. Emptiness is the consummate nature, not the selflessness of a person. So we find complexities like that in other texts, but not here. They're just treated more like same,
यहाँ पापे न्याय जाएगी तब चिंचे मालूम यूँ रोता, चुनी तब जुमे यूँ रोनी, जुमे यूँ रो से, दे न्याय या ये जान, गामन यूँ रो जिया को बता हिंजे, यूँ रो तेरे में न होसे, चिंचे मालूम यूँ रो से ना, खाली तेरे तो यूँ को तब पापे न्याय जाएगी चिंचे मालूम यूँ रो से. 知道有时候真的东西的有时候同学的。
他东西都被写了的用中我们吃个嘛，
那
你东西都被写了语言的，他
我这亲戚嘛都被用着手。
那么的这用中我们吃个。
用中我想嘛，用中东西家长。
So, as you find in the middle of this whole passage, section on the consummate nature, that again, the consummate nature, of course, all the 20 emptinesses and so forth are the examples of consummate nature, thoroughly established reality, Yongdup. And so the Yongdup, or the consummate nature, is classified into two again here. The one is called the undistorted consummate nature, in Tibetan called Chinche Malobe Yongdup. Chinche Malobe is, that's right, unmistaken or undistorted, that's correct. And the second one is the unchanging consummate nature, Yunme Yongdup, immutable consummate nature. So the example of the first kind, the undistorted consummate nature, is, for example, the wisdom realizing emptiness, especially in the meditative equipoise, that direct perception, isn't it? It is called a consummate nature, but it's not the real one, isn't it? Because the consummate nature is the same as emptiness, right? So emptiness, which is the example of the unchanging consummate nature, that is the, if you could say, real consummate nature, whereas the perception of that reality, the subjective mind, is not the real consummate nature.
What is it? Ben nanga de ja song de nanga tori ka bo do yin ba da tamje de song a xin de yun zhe ga ja je de menga yin ba da tamje de cha bi so sa o de da yun zhe nanga ja xiong ji ma ja gu da nanga me do ja pe so mo ro di da yun zhe nanga ja se ga re se nanga de tori ka so se ga ja ka so menga ro ti sha ni ji pe ju wo da tam지 소화세는 난게 막잡사 요마로와 근데 되는 이 춘이게 그 처지 춘이 님도 찾아서 춘이 막잡 쇼요 말와 그래서 그 배동적 배도 시주 인수 거 가가 송도가
So as we said before, some of the expressions which are often to encounter are that other dependent phenomena are like an illusion, magical. And imagined nature is like a space flower, and consummate nature is like space itself. Okay, so now we're kind of explaining, what does it mean? Emptiness is, is space or space-like, if you will. Because space, the way it's defined, namka in Tibetan, translated in English, space is nothing but the absence of obstructiveness, isn't it? Unblocking, that the space means that nothing's occupying that, right? It's that unobstructiveness. So it is what we call non-affirming negative reality, So like that, emptiness, is nothing but the absence of, the superimposition, if you will, right? And it's also a non-affirming negative reality. So just as space pervades everything that exists, isn't it? So like that, emptiness pervades everything that exists. Every phenomenon has emptiness nature, in other words, right? There is no phenomenon that's not emptiness, So the space and emptiness, this is how they can be very similar, right, in a sense.
Oh, yeah. With the data, Gonde, the Tigdu, long chita, she Tigdu, long chita, here in Ming Mang Tones, Mang to long resource, that the contact of carriers next day is because this is what the dog Gonde, the Gonde, and it seems without contact of the university. Can you take this and Papa told me to do this as your sense of what is it? Long sit here is the Tidu, the Gonde, the Gonde, Tidu, long the Chanda and the Mongore do this. That Tonda, the shame of long was time is. Carsa Mong Tony, Maji saw. Sing some ye, sure Tamsi do the say Tamsi Shawa. Shunyi tamsi yungzhu, tele shenpe shue tamsi gunda soho se. Ata tisunga ranguni chubjang, denbar chumari che yue de, gunda denme dang, xingwa yungzhu, denbar chubi shiro se. Da rangju kharsa di, teju shue da rangun chu shue be siwa rwa. 다 저기 메시지 쇼다지 정보를 좀 켜고라. 들다 되면 좀 이렇게 쉬어서 다 구다들 엔디만 맞아. 레시엔 아니 경험이 내려 레시.
So that at the end of the paragraph, right after the consummate nature outlined, gives us the sources from where these explanations have come about. The two sources mentioned are Gongdel, Sutra explaining the indent. We call it Dode Gongdel. What usually I say? Unraveling Thought Sutra. That's how we normally translate it. And the second one is Tegdu, here translated as Compendium of Mahayana, or usually I call it Condensed Vehicle, Tegdu Yana, and by the Asanga. And this explains the Chittamatra perspective. So these are the sources of things we just dealt with. And so it says that all phenomena means everything that exists, belongs to one of these three natures. They have to be, so as it's explained, the three natures are, as we said, imagined nature, Gwinda, and dependent nature, Shenwang, and consummate nature, Yongzhu. Okay? So according to Chittamatrans, right, the dependent nature and consummate nature, they exist truly. They are truly existent. Whereas imagined nature does not exist truly, right? In the sense. So, from Prasangika point of view, nothing exists truly, right? Nothing exists intrinsically. But in the Chittamatrans or in the Savatantrika Madhyamika Chittamatrans, they do accept, what we call Ranga Nidroba, intrinsic reality.
What is it? Singing Sanji, Chetabji, Dude, Dumas Tabji, Dushi Tabji, Shama, Dushi Tabji, Shama, Chuni Tabji, Yungro, Telehembe, Chetabji, Gunda, so this song, Ramun, Trubjang, Demba Trouble, Kaya, the Gunda, Demba Beta, Shama, Demba Trevi, Shero, so he, that kid. Rangji me je de Ramu zhe karo, Ramu zhe ke me za dema zhe mo shan chegri, xiang yo de dema zhe, gunda dema mo zhe chegri.
So as we said, these three natures, they incorporate or encompass all phenomena. For example, all the produced phenomena, Dorjee, all the things, they are other dependent nature. All emptinesses are consummate nature. Okay? Then everything else that's left about, which are neither dependent or nor the consummate, are what we call imagined nature. So these three natures, they are very inclusive, and they said everything that exists belongs to them. But that said, as we said earlier, that the other dependent nature and consummate nature, according to Chittamatrans, they are truly existent, Tempadruba, right? Whereas the imagined nature is not,
What is it? Because I did develop this Drogo Tassi, the Pong doesn't share. Gunda don't have a rag, don't have a tongue rag, you must do a mela. Today you want them at the Dodo in us. Because Gunda rag is in Shabazina, don't have the Dodo Shakris. La
Gunda Tempadruba Zena Pachet.
Dodo,
La
Dodo, Dodo was as you.
Hello, Toda. No.
Because the Dodo Tani Kundo, Hena, Gunda told about Rangzi, Jitua Mela, Teda, you want the money, Dodo in La. Tea, she, Dodo, Ties. Dodo, Tata, Dodo, she in Casa. Dodo, Tata, Dodo, she in Casa. Dodo, Tasana. Gunda never showed Dodo Tashagrava. Dodo, she uses Dodo get the cool use.
No.
So that the Tasa, the Yamar, Takashi, Dodo Tadia, Dodo Tayana, and did Gunda never do.
No. So we are on page 99 there somewhere. There is the distinction being made between what we call superimposition, choda, fabrication, usually I say it, and the other word is called underestimation, here translated as denigration. So it's a little bit different from that. Denigration has different meaning, right? It's a casting aspiration onto. That's a fancy way of saying the underestimation. So as Geshe explained, that in terms of three nature, we said imagined nature, does not exist truly. But if we superimpose true existence onto that, so that is one extreme, isn't it? It is the superimposition because you added something, fabricated here. Now, in the case of dependent nature and consuming nature, they are truly existent. But if you deny their true existence, so that is casting aspiration onto that reality, isn't it? Underestimating them. So that's the other extreme. So in terms of thought, the Tibetan word thought literally means extremes. The extremes should not exist in reality. But whereas grasping at extremes could exist, isn't it? Right? Extremes themselves don't exist, but Shenpa, the grasping at extremes, do exist. So those are the distinctions being made. No. So as Geshe says, the source here where we differentiate about these extremes is from the Bodhisattva Bhumi or the Bodhisattva ground, right? Changsa. And so how we differentiate between the two extremes, tha, one is the superimposition, choda in Tibetan. The Tibetan literally means adding feather. I know somebody liked that before. Adding feather, that's what it is. And the kurdev is kind of underestimating something. Yeah? And so superimposition or adding feather is defined as that if what's called something that does exist, if we said it exists, that fabrication is superimposition, isn't it? Something that's non-existent, but if we superimpose it to be existent, that's an example of superimposition, choda, adding feather. We added feather there. The other extreme is where something exists, but we deny its existence. Right? That denial is underestimation. So as we said before, the extremes should not exist, but the grasping at extremes, right, do exist.
Shimale Madenja, Toji Yundu Laguataba, Duduyan, Gamale, Songshin. Shimala Goa Dudu, good Dudu, Shimon Duduyan, Shimon, Jeremy Sheva, Tiny Medicine, the Manji. The told of me, is what go there. Shima, just Shima Yamaris and Tireko Kesamaris. Shima told of a miss, or did they get a risk or that?
So in the case of the underestimation, it's not simply saying, for example, dependent nature does not exist. What it means that dependent nature does not exist truly, right? That would be what we call underestimation or denigration according to the translation here.
Shujin Shima Tonda Zebati, Singing Sungala, Goodness Joros. Tatina Gudarasi Moros, Yuru, Tina Karsa, Kid of Karshas, and Shima good at Kisharis. Shima the Dagi, Shima the Mena, good eye, Yomaris, you know, Chateau, she's a shit of the mother, Shima, she's a Shima go out there, and he couldn't have the shad with the Charis or that.
Shewang kuwa the nation, you look about the Chadwina.
La,
Shewang kuba dawina, young Rubta, so of the three natures, if we underestimate dependent nature, right, we say that they are not truly existent. That's underestimation. So that kind of underestimation or denigration amounts to denigrating the other two natures as well. Why? Because among these three natures, dependent nature, have a central figure. It's more important, right? It's the basis upon which consumer nature is established, upon which the imagined nature is also talked about. It's superimposed. So if we it's just like if you pull the rug from your feet, then you have nothing to stand on, right? That's my example. Geshe didn't say that. So if we cast aspiration onto the dependent nature, that amounts to casting aspiration onto the other two natures as well.
Chirkunda da lenye nile mamani shiribada tomani jura yejing lenye la khansa dangzi khansa shui da yida shimala kunda rang singi juban zebata sungzi zishin zeba yi la ngaman goshi yirigba 특별히 명강으로 넘이 시리 뭐에서 대단히 담아다를 다르게 저 계속 송나 론디 도랑 도당 리바트다라 때니 송지님이 나르자 주주당 대한 요새 초아시다 시바시거니 저거 특별히 시바소 Ronzo gozi hipar hindi sheva show. So that the Ronzo the Roro Shesa is in the Shiva Shedon the Hills. Going to do Tidul Shiva Sol Hipar Hindi Shiva show. Or that day Rosamond Yeva Shemis. And give a dog on Tidu, the Pawatomi shows the town is good.
단단히 군다의 치료보다 낭만이가 열어야 될 것은 모르겠는데. 군다 sen시의 치료다 낭만이게 귀를 열어라 그러게.
그래. ready are you?
아니 랭게디 아니 랭게디
다 거기 그게 켈라네. 리베 주시지 켈라다 고다시오라. 그러다 샤르다 줄여서 켈레스가 배워서 랭게시오라.
노노노노.
진짜 이니용 거리가.
노노노노. So Geshe's reading and explanation pertains to the last paragraph on page 99 and top of page 100 there. So as we said earlier, that the extremes don't exist, the tha, right? But as grasping the extremes, do exist. And so in terms of the grasping, we can classify them into two types. One is called Quinta, here translated as what is it translated here? Imputed. Usually I translate intellectual. That seems to make more sense than imputed here. And the other one is called Lenje, innate one. Yeah. So the examples of imputed grasping or intellectual grasping more are the different kind of viewpoints propounded by Buddhists and non-Buddhists, right? Based upon some kind of reasoning, right? Rationality, they say this is how it should be, right? And so we hold on to those views. That kind of grasping are more examples of imputed ones. But for the innate one, developed ones, should be something that exists in the minds of all beings, right? They do not have to depend on reasoning or some kind of a theory propositions here, They just simply exist. And so examples given are the grasping at the self of person, grasping at the self of phenomena, right? Because they do exist in all sentient beings' mind, or not all, okay, that, yeah.
What did you call that? 贴不少是古代的Tenzin的，Tenzin了连夜没事呗，就这么可能就来了，这现在的他们人，让这他们人就来也，古代时代的。现在的让这他们人就要嘛的说的，没现在吧，他现在的让他们人是让参与着让我做些什么一些，让我那么这边这这个是要嘛是吧？现在的古代的里啊，就这么就是就这么那说的。
What is it? Kundeb
古代是那原本没法打的是吧？
现
在这了呀，古代嘛都是。
No. So on page 100, if we would like to know more about these things, then the source material references are listed for our, reference there. Handling two glasses are not much fun, but one is the compendium of Mahayana. I usually call it condensed vehicle, Tegdu in Tibetan, so we can read that and other related materials there. So in the case of imagined graspings or intellectual graspings, so these are the kind of graspings, two different things, presented by different viewpoints or perspectives, as we said earlier, so all kinds of philosophical standpoints, if you will, right? In the Buddhist and non-Buddhist schools of thought, these are propounded by different systems of thinking. So grasping onto those philosophical viewpoints are the examples of what are called imagined grasping or intellectual graspings.
엄마가 유예됐을 때 태요리다. 태바셔 나라라 예버서 디게제 꾸저든 탐제 여라 돈다면 탐제메도 셰세로 셰바니 렌데바라 주나 셰베 파르디 송 돈은 엄마바 디니 강이 지와는 엄마바 디니 강이 되는 엄마베 데바르 메바 돈듬 다 데바 나웨세 최 신입에 군조인호시 레다베세 라야 디데 디지 조주 제바 디쇼 넘어를 거니 가자 가바 모두 데바오 데 디니 거니 지줄 더 렌드줄라 다둥 십자에 그저 마지소 데네 군데 고주 도즈모스 그래서 라야디 다간제 다디 군데 고바차들 태요와도 좋아지는 가요리스 저디 가샤시 라야디 데니지 조주 시바디 쇼가르 거니 가고 모든 제바오 데르 데니 가이 지주당 렌들줄라 다도 십자가가 마지소 데네 군데 고주 도자모스 다 군데 고주티 제버잡이 인세거다
근데 양조선을 고마서 근데
나
다들 스타마데 근데 양조선 마신게 차가
자 군데서 그 쇼가데다 태조셔가로
로
태조와 군데 고사디
가르 강사
다다 심자바 해워로
네
그래서 군대 고야 총총하면 고바 유지 태조셔로 태조셔서 라우시 말아서 어디서
알레
저 뒤십자도 시니 내니고를 내자 참자와다 태조 저한테들 뭐뭐도디 들고 메사
알레 다 군대게 배샤야디 아니 삼자바게 뇌네 튕겨보게다 가스게 랑치 또 바카메라와
로드 삼자바 시워로 그래서 시인데 롱롱도 삼자바 시워
라로 랑로 삼자바로와 자 삼자바 뇌네 때베
튕겨보게 고유성한테 가서 도만이 셔다 쉬어도 마셔 끝나 고유성한테 튕겨보면 되면도
아 군대 때문에 총한테 튕겨보지 응 샤바트 가서 뭐지
샤바 로도 정도 고유대 너대와다도 저거라.
네, 네, 우스킨 보면서 양주송.
정도서는
정도.
정도서는 매번 여다 정도서.
오케이. 어디 총아 되게디?
되게 다 동원이 샤셔고.
라. 대만이요.
샤셔고.
노. 알레 카피 되노스. 알레 다 코르데브 사세데 땡큐 버샤고. 다 컨센서 방문에 다 되는.
군나 성가데 대요 뭐 세다야 말이.
알레 센서 방문에 다 되는. So I can hear better when Geshe faces me. It looks like she's talking to the table. So I think that whole passage, where is it? Those of you who have for your reference, we're talking about is that big paragraph in the middle, right? We have a whole quotation from the compendium of determinations, right? That whole thing here. So that's the explanation. I was asking Geshe to explain again because I didn't understand first time. So it is like say, it is as if the Chitta Martins or the Mindfulness School are having sort of a, if you say, debate with Prasangika Madhyamikams, right? Because they have very different philosophical standpoints, isn't it? So from Chitta Martin's point of view, Prasangika Madhyamikams are their real opponents, like when we think in terms of examples of denigration or underestimation, right? Because Prasangika Madhyamikams says nothing exists truly, intrinsically, right? And so therefore, right, from their perspective, right, they are the proponents of, or they are, right, examples of that. But in terms of superimposition, from Chitta Martin point of view, then the Vibhasikas and Sautrantika, the Temani, right, they are the sort of worthy opponents here, so to speak, right? That's what's going on. So we will stop there today and we welcome questions. First we will go to cyberspace Dharma friends. If not, we'll come back.
How is it possible that the subtle mind that continues to change through eons of lifetimes and karma is considered conventional can eventually change to ultimate reality when Buddhahood is achieved?
Okay, could you read that one more time?
How is it possible that the subtle mind that continues to change through eons of lifetimes and karma and is considered conventional can eventually change to ultimate reality when Buddhahood is achieved?
Okay.
It seems to contradict logic that something that is considered conventional reality can also become ultimate reality in the future.
Okay, now I got it. Okay. Thanks for that, the last one. Because in the first part, it did not make much sense to me. But anyway, I'm a translator. Just whatever makes no sense, I'll ask Geshe, right, and then hopefully it makes sense. Tiwa did issue again, Tajathon and Rowagan. Tiwa shue the Tavesem Sigdoagan. Tavesem. Tavesem Rowagan. Tave number Shabala, Tavesem. The Nga Nang the Metacans like that, but I'm just Tavesem Sigdoagan. Kiawaching the Chingman draw the gang, as a new man never seemed to Rowagan. Chiwaching the Chingman draw the gang, same to your Rowagan. The same day and the Tartus and a sang gate to go to Rowagan.
Same to this.
Tartu Namjan and sang gate to go to Rowagan. Same day and a Kunsa Tempa Maraves, Rowagan. Then the Kunsa Tempa Yin and sure to them back on the chart to go again. Out that this one, that dig and dish it sex to Rowagan. Panasama, same day Kunsa Tempa, sang gate to the Tunda Bachar of Rowagan. Kunsa Tempa Church, Tunda Bachar and a Gawarisha, then the Kunsa Nigi, she didn't do the Susara.
I was sang ye to the Tunda Bachar of Mareva. Tunda Bachar of Mareva. But simply Tunda de Variaje, Tunda was don't you that to the shower, go to the shower. Some Tunda de Variaje.
No, sir. And the Geshe always gives a very short answer. I don't know how that's helpful. I always try to push him, but anyway, maybe I shouldn't do that much of that. Geshe says, number one, he wants to say that, yes, the subtle mind, right, that eventually becomes Buddha is a conventional reality, and that never becomes an ultimate reality. So he said, it's impossible for a conventional reality to become ultimate reality. So that's his answer. Yeah. Any other questions we have? No. Okay. So we have the traveling mic here, so we can come back. Thank you. Would anybody like to start off, warm up, and then we might, yeah. Please start it off, and then we can.
So I was just hoping, thank you, Geshe, for your teaching. And I was hoping, I feel like I'm kind of stuck in my understanding. And I was wondering if Geshe could help me just push up. So my understanding right now is that emptiness is, or that truth is that I'm trying to categorize things, and that my categorizing is always incorrect. So there's something in the teaching today,
Like two truths, right?
Right, the two truths. So the ones is that I'm categorizing everything, and that's wrong. But then that my understanding is that we believe that there is really something underneath, but I just don't understand it, so I can't name it. That's kind of where I'm stuck. Does that make sense? Is there a way for Geshe to push me a little bit? I feel like I'm just basic. Do you know?
No, I understood what you said, where you're stuck.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, how it does. Okay, so tell me one more time, just for so that for 100% I understand you, right?
Yeah.
So you said, what's the categories?
So
Categorizing is wrong.
that there are phenomena that exist, but that me trying to categorize them is what makes them. It's my perception that's the incorrect part, but that
There could be incorrect and correct both, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I guess I'm wondering, is that sort of a basis, or is there like something that I need to be reaching more for? I feel like I'm just staying there. Does that make sense in my knowledge that things do exist, and it's my trying to put them into boxes, or?
How do you approach the true truth? Is that the question?
Yeah, I guess I'm stuck in like it just feels, only word I can think of is basic. Like I'm like, oh, I'm trying to categorize them, and that's why. And I remember when I realized that, I was like, oh, I got it. But then now it seems like I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you mean like in your mind you're categorizing, you label it, then I got it, then it's not right.
Right,
Label
well,
it,
like-
that's what we're thinking?
Yeah. So me labeling it is the part that's the non-existent part. Does that make sense? Or that is the really ultimate nature?
Oh, okay.
But so I guess that's what I'm imagining, or that's what I'm.
Okay.
So is there a way to push me up a little
Okay,
bit?
let me try with that. I think I understood you better a little bit, and see if that answers your question. That's it. If not, ask again.
Okay.
Clarifying thing. 다 뭐라 강에 더 제거로 하게 당부도 구지스라면 디 센데 있어다 다긴 간소 딜 대화 책만 속에 다 시자 생엔디 담반이서 예두고로 하게 군적 담바다 담담다 봤으로 하게 당 아주 셈 나리야 최되게 야와 먹고지 체 아니 그 초가를 써대로 하게 지 남지 텐데고 딱다래 돼서 다디 군적을 처리 담담 처러로 하게 다 뭐란 상발라 게데 야와 체셔도 갈들 양안저게 다 따샤나로 하게 아니 레기에서 말했다 던담 담바스도 갈로 하게 같이 마다 아버지 코란 가리네로 하게 어제 뭐 나다 고를 레기면 도사로 하게 딜이야 즉 차도 그 따사나 만디부 차르고 그래서 최대마 야와 체인대로 하게 계속도 최마게 던담다 공접 야와 체로 다 차도 똑배 맞지 야와 체 요마로 하게 그래서 차도 똑배 야와 체 사도 갈라 가리세네 던담 니루디 라고는 쇼로 그래 다들 마다 아버지 다가나 즉 따고 그래 가리 상부 간다 땅고 그래서 던담 담바 상담이 되지로 하게 근데 동이래 섬되나로 하게 만디다 동이고 가래는 거라 따댕어 그래 진짜 섬면 되게 동이래 자도 똑바 따서도 그래 만디되 그래 그 쇼롱에 쇼머게
뭐 제가 동이래 자 똑바 따섬도 지는 똑바 따 그래데 똑바 거짓 뭐지 따가 지금 뭐라 그래 동이 그런 라죠 따 수익은 들 거라서 뭐이벌이 뭐 따게는 배도 말아.
again the job chain이다 so third the 동이 레서 삼발게 교육에 요마다 디도 거로 따데 디 동이 검되네 디 던담 대바스는 니레 레서 그 민탁사데 다가가서 자도 똑바 따셔버 교육에 요마로 하게
뭐 대다 동이 있을 거 뭐셔고 봐. 제가 동이 공개해서 배도 말아. 쇼니시야 거는 이 동이 내려서 시고를 세네. 근데 오늘 또 선데 저거라.
맞다 또 쓰게 다 당보다 게 뒤주셔도 마시 또 아요 말로 제가 화나서 델이야 타니에 이제 답사되고 가는 머디딩을 쓰러하게 돈담 담바세도 담배 타니에 되대로 상담되고 저러하게 타니에 그디 돈담 담바서 랍사되고 가라 머주사도 가지고 캔서 휴차도 뭐 쓰러하게
타니에 맞잖아. 이와 하고 말아. 니가 뭐고 뭐래서 남자 다니면 아니 그 남자 지가 지르고 와야 돼.
알아 당보 타니에 관에 시험하지 않는 갈래가 maybe this will answer the question right I've just tried to untie everything for Geshe otherwise right And if this is where you're struggling, right, of course, we said that objects of knowledge can be classified into two truths, right? Conventional truth and ultimate truth. Yeah? And these are two different kinds, you know. And so ultimate truth is the way everything really exists. That's the final nature, you know. But for us, right, to be able to understand it first, we have to label it and we have to depend upon terms and concepts, right, to be able to think about whatever even that ultimate is, isn't it? And so, but then of course, it's not enough that anything and everything can be labeled as ultimate reality. That's wrong. But we have to make sure that whatever is really labeled as ultimate reality, that's a correct one, right? You know, so at the beginning, we have to deal with that. Even if you think this is what emptiness is, that's all we can do, right? Then slowly, through more analysis meditation, then we try to sort of, if you will, like depend less on the terms, you know, then try to access the truth more directly or experientially. Does that make sense? But in the beginning, we have to deal with the concept and the term. We cannot, you know, because otherwise, how do we know what is ultimate truth and what is not ultimate truth? Does that help you?
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, in terms of practice, when they're, see, now it's one that escaped my thought. When in this school, they're positing selflessness of self and selflessness of phenomena. In terms of practice, it seems to me they would have to have two separate practices. It's not like they would have to have for each emptiness. You know, the selfness of, they're not the same, because one, you have to think about from their perspective, the emptiness of the non-separateness of the perceiver and the perceived and the absence of external reality and all that stuff. And the other one is a completely different type of meditation. So my question is, when they're progressing along the path, are they like between, let's say, the beginning up to about the path of seeing, they're focusing on the selfnesses of self, until, and then they kind of switch and focus more on the selfness of phenomena? I'm kind of wondering how they do it,
Sure.
because seems they've kind of put themselves in a position that they have to do two different things.
Thank you. That's very clear. Yes. The moral condition the disagree that under against some by look for a shisha chair wagon. Some by look shisha and on the shady go wagon. Chedicala, that Yamlenki want the Chenishanas are wagon. Some by Gita, Kamasaki Tame, the Church Tame, you do the Tame, the Chipare of Marosarwa. Because of the Tame, you depend Yamle Masaka Nish and the wagon. See, Kasaranga to Jay Tonwegi, that the Kasatame the wagon. Church Tame Seducal Sungzi, Kasada. Dirwake, Tadenamaki did Tawage. Chedicano Koni bet Arabe Tame Yigalo bet Tonda Kagas and Wage, Yamle Kagar of Charles of Dus or Wage. In their sons and Yamle Shabina, sometimes when the Tango, Kansa Tame de Torwage. Chedica Bena, Damara Summer Chemini, Tom Lumber of Top Wage. That all told her what that's in a church Tamala Park Couple Google or Candidates and Yamle Shemin Wage. Kansko Tame Jibama Wage. Or Dick sense on guess.
예, 강사장이 또 대수에 담에 제시는 저거 대서 로정나什么看些상신 수비도 당부 라바라바 something 차차 치약 되게 오마오마디 고마고면 밥도 있어요라 저거
맞네 맞게 디디 저거게 배나 강사 다음에 또 하는게 배나 당부 통람차 안 통람 타서는 신의 최고 다음에 삼로 다음에 되는 파 공람 도르고 되는 지금 말와
라
강사 다음에 검내 심장을 그러게 당부 통람 토로하게 다 강사 다음에 또 하는 통람 토로하게 다 통람 타서는 신의 최고 다음에 삼로 다음에 되는 공람을 야 랑바 파두고 되는 인지 말와
진짜도 이제 말이다 강사 다음에 강사 다다랑에서 저 다음에 저라 그거는 상지야 요 말와 다 자주 못 하디요
맞samsam에 제비나
심점으로
알 자주 못 듣고 말와
라
samsam ngone chacha ma shi sanje tu go ma
자주 뭐 강사 다음에 또 상지야 요 말
samsam lo la
맞습니다.
ta jene di to chacha ma cha ande ne shine chö ga dame kom sanje ru go
다 강사 다음에 라제테 코로스 강사 다음에 샤또네 다 고무 경에 시에서는 자주만 탑도 그러면서 현토와요 말
an shine da chö ga dame kom
다
kom sha
근데
ru
다 시에도 야 드라야 말아
sida al chacha ma to ma chö ga dame kom ji me ga cha de yo marwa
다 담아도 다 되는 거 시야시야 말 유원의 바사를 히든 바도 말아. 지야자.
마체다 처그 다음에 그 자주 뭐 톱산의 시인의 고문에 처그 다음에 고문에 가다게 디르와 가사 그 시리판 엔상기로 딘데르 리바르로다
얘네 그 이는 인제세보다 저주세도 있겠. 이는 신의 수익이 되면 거든 이는 상식이다.
Because I want to make sure that I don't misrepresent what Geshe is saying. There may be many other ways, right? So I was just to make sure that he's saying and I'm hearing right. Maybe this, I want to put it's one way, okay, at least, say, maybe more safer than. So from Chitta Martin point of view, you're right. The two selflessnesses are very different, right? And from Chitta Martin point of view, by realizing the selflessness of a person, which is the the absence of self-sufficient, substantial existent person, you can find liberation. But that alone is not going to take you to Buddhahood. Are you with me? So then I was asking, so does that mean that first they focus on the selflessness of person, become an arahat, so now they can focus on the selflessness of phenomena, but they still have to get rid of cognitive obscuration, right? I was double checking, is that what it is? It's the only way? He said, yeah, that's one way to do it, right? First you realize because in two types of selflessness, we said first we deal with selflessness as a person, right? So you realize that, and then you realize that this does not take you all the way up to enlightenment, that to reach there, now you need to focus on the selflessness of phenomena. Okay, so then you can focus then. Does that answer your question? Okay, then you are happy, we are happy.
Today, Bangashi Gomna, you must Bangashi Gongwa Jamara, Kokanza Dami Gongu, She Dami Gongu, Mambo Yamdo Gomna, Diora, Dojo Jamasa, Lauren the Shiu there. Tomo is the show Ganga Yamo, Jangasha, but the is so Shindo of Tasana. There the Hindo Mambo Takan, do Mambo Derby Vigura. And she does take that. Teach me by Gogre, TV the action that Tasana. Any call, because you walk the shoes called Sajo Yama. Tomoko but time here, and there we are terrible. She have it. But in the issue, not joy.
So I'm glad I said one way. That's the rules are not fine. Let's explain more, right? Because I want to make. I don't want to say that's this the way. It sounds like. But that's one way. The second way could be said it's possible that you can meditate on both, right? Not at the same time, right? You can meditate on the selflessness of person, then you can have meditate on selflessness phenomena separately. You can do them sort of together. So this way, there is also benefit to that. So the example Geshe gives here is like in the Lamrim, one of the instructions we have is that when we think about the whole complex structure of the path, if we can think about everything a little bit, then maybe when they fruition, many things might fruition together, isn't it? If we only think about one thing, we get stuck, then we are stuck there. The example is like if you want to have all kinds of fruits, just plant all the seeds together. Then you have apples and the bananas and oranges and everything. But first you put apple, then you wait, okay, the apple grows. Now I'm going to put banana. Well, it takes too much time, right? So
yeah, just
spread the seed and the germinate.
But focus on one first.
So that's another way.
So my next thing is,
yes,
since they do that, my understanding is they do have tantric practices in the Charya and Kriya.
Say it again.
The Chittamatra school, they do have tantra. For like I think they do Charya and Kriya. And I'm not really sure. And if they do, how would they even?
Oh, okay. No, that's a different question.
Yeah, that's a completely different one. I'm just going like I'm looking at how they practice. So when they're sitting down and they're going to practice, and I may be wrong.
Okay.
Maybe it's only Sattva-tantrika that has. Okay. No, my understanding, I think they do have Kriya and Charya.
So
I mean, they do have tankas in their temples with yidams on them.
Right.
So they must have, their presentation of Kriya and Charya schools of Tantra. I'm just curious how they would apply it given their particular positions.
Sure. Okay. Right. Tamara Chivati the bed for a number of chums wine that Chivati sugar again. Morang didn't tend to water and that. Senzaba again. The Moras, the several in the Senzaba Yamni Chigo or Yomares or Senzaba Lula again. Senzaba Judas again. And Yamni Chigo in the Chaju Chuji, which Yamni Chigo in the Roage. Tanga, the Koran, the Tao Dudashua, in Yamdo Condesceta, Digwichin in the summertime, in the Cadena. That gang says it in Angma again. Senzaba Dudapore Mass against Yoroma again. And Senzaba Yamni Chigo or Chev in a Condescigo or again. The Koran's Tower the Timbers.
Lola nga yuesu ta do de wa da chira ma so nga ke jame do
killing
Sāmbā
or
yī
marwa.
sū ngā kēdā yōrī sā,
Nga killing or.
ngā kēsā yōrī.
Nga again tanda nga judi shiga killing or we.
Tā yōtē shōrī pēshī kāngā yī rē.
No so. Jidi ka tanga de nyamne chebe inage. Tanda bena da la bung bena karen di tanda khora sa tawa jo ro wage.
Ngore.
Di da nyam do ha da hai ne jo ro gom ro wage. Ane
Ngore.
jar gyo na da.
Tā tī tā dō shō tā tōngyī tō shāshū sēntā chīkpa rā. Tā ngā khora yāngā hāi nē sā kōyā, tsāng sē kōyā, sā kōrā lūsū lōkā yā rā gōng jī rā wā.
Ma da tanda gen di den senza ba gi porang tanda kansa tame de chur tame ta ka khom che nga nyamne che yo ra ge.
Yōrī, tērī tā,
Li du re.
yī rē rē.
Ane no.
Tā tōngyī
Tīngyū
gōng
bē tā- tīngyū-
kāngsā rāngyē tā bē dēyō tōngā gōng bē ngā kā nyamne tē mē yī sā rē.
Ene chur ta me.
Tā chō yī kā tōngyī tā shē rē kāchī ngā nyamne, kāchī sēm sā bā yī rāngyī wū tsū kā ngā lō ngā kā nyamne yō rā sā kato.
Ane
kāngsā rāngyē tā bē dēyō chō tōngā ngā jā kā kī rē yō mā rē lō tō.
ane chur ta me de gi ro wage. Okay, that's good. Yes, the Martins do accept, right, the tantric vehicle, just like higher schools of thought. And so the question is that, because they present two selflessnesses, the selflessness of the person that they present, that cannot be connected to the tantric practice at all, right? So the only thing that, right, is would be connected to the tantric practice is the selflessness of phenomena, you know. So that could be connected to a tantric practice. So they do accept tantras, yeah. Right, so that's the connection with their schools of thought, right? Not the selflessness of a person, but the selflessness of as they present the non-duality of subject and object, that could be connected to the tantric practice.
So they don't, if they don't do selflessness of person,
Right.
then they don't visualize themselves arising as a yidam. They would never
Right,
do
that's
that. It
another
will always
question,
be
yes,
a
right.
separate yidam
Right.
in the front.
I can
and-
ask that question.
yeah.
My footnote would be, I think maybe they use the selflessness of phenomena to do that, you know.
I am-
That's my footnote, but I could ask, right? I'll korang this go re. And kisi kansa ge tangme di gi roage, samsamba gi kansa tangme di nga nyamlen jaya mena roage. And rangi tongsang che gore di, any tongsang che yo marwas go da korang roa.
tē sēm nō chō yī tā mē kē līng kōrā.
Right. Yeah, so as I said, yes, because when they dissolve themselves into what that reality ultimate, that's the selfless of phenomena they do it, not the selfless of person. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I want to go back to Katie's question.
Sure.
Well, actually, in the Chittamatra, Sangha talks about inexpressible reality. So, just like she said, on the one hand, there are all the labels and categories.
Right.
On the other hand, there is inexpressible reality.
Right. Sure,
Okay.
sure. Okay.
Just like what you're
Okay,
talking
sure.
about.
Thank you.
So this inexpressible reality, in my understanding, refers to dependent nature. The dependent nature is inexpressible. The dependent nature doesn't exist as a basis for application of terms and concepts, right? Okay, so that's one way of looking. Now, Geshe gave an answer from the perspective of Prasangika, but from
Chittamatra.
she may have asked the question from the perspective of Chittamatra. In that sense, what she's referring to is the imputed nature, the concepts and terms,
Yeah.
categories, on the one hand, and dependent nature. And then the same question actually could be from the perspective of Sautrantika. You know, the Sautrantikas say that all the concepts that we have are conventional reality. But there is ultimate reality, which is the things in themselves,
Right.
functioning things. So they are inexpressible, they really cannot apply, the concepts do not adhere in them.
Okay, so inexpressible, what was it you said?
Inexpressible reality.
Reality, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But this inexpressible reality is not emptiness.
Okay, okay.
Does that
Okay,
make
yeah,
sense?
we could ask that, yeah, sure. That's actually helpful, yeah. Yeah. Al Qurangi this what I think me chiwadi roage del devatagi orwa tanda di chitungu doage karso gore the jud me was say roage temba second the jud me was say rowa say di tanda di senza ba lu shisha chebe na roage thank you bana mata ba che roage senza ba lu shisha chebe jud me was say kowa di roage jasa di Quran samlo dana shewan la chagyo marwes roage shewan di karso da jud me ba roage Chidu Kanla ya odi dishes kyoran as roage jud me was say ko
Jōd
senza
mē wā
bana
sā
shena
yā xiong ālā yā giri yu rā di, jōd mē wā sā yā
Yung rū jaga marwa.
tōng yil xā gu. Tōng yil sā yā sō sō tōg wā nāng xīng kī bī kī, 밀리 셰토 마르시오라
No.
베나 가서 나먼저 세베나
No.
푸른 세베나 푸른 힘으로 들어가서나 아니 그 힘으로 나온도 세스게 뭐죠 그런 양만 나시데 밀파샤요 말아
네.
어디 저디면 드레스 말
쉐마를 자야요나.
자 시간 저디면 세다 이거 내용도 시도 시마다 군다 뭐 쉐마세 저시 시마 내용도 제는 저디면 누구지 진짜 시마세
쉐마 꾸다 그 동거 사이 쉐마를 보게.
어디
어디 저도 책으로 와.
다들 저디면 있어
저도 책으로 와.
어디
군다 그 동거 틀만에. 얘네 용접래 센터로 자초거를 왜.
라
저도 매서 센터로 로네 용접래 자초거를.
야 자소지
No, just make double checking. So from Chitta Martin point of view, looking at that, right? And Geshe says that maybe it's possible to explain inexpressible reality with regard to dependent nature, right? But usually, that inexpressibility in many contexts is only related to the ultimate reality, emptiness, right? In which case, even in the Chitta Martin, we could say that's to do with the consummate nature. But in the case of dependent nature, if we apply it, right, sort of thing, then it could be, as we said in the text, that dependent nature are devoid of imputed nature, right? So that could be the inexpressibility part, right? So that's,
That would be emptiness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be emptiness. But nevertheless, there is two selfness as a phenomena. There are two ways in which there are two types of selfness phenomena, right? Geshe explained the main one, which is the absence of subject and object being of different substance.
Right.
Okay, so that's one. But the other one is that that phenomena are not naturally a basis for application of terms and
Say the second one. Was?
Okay, maybe I'm not. This is not the exact definition, but phenomena not naturally the basis for application of terms and concepts. This is a
not
selfless.
naturally basis for.
Okay, so this is a second selflessness. So
Selflessness
we're
of
talking
phenomena,
about
I mean.
one, but actually there are two selfless phenomena.
Selfless.
A phenomena. A phenomena.
A phenomenon, yes.
Yeah.
Are you talking from Chitta Martin only point of view,
Yes,
or
from
in general?
Chitta Martin, yeah.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
okay.
And Svatantrika, Yogacara Svatantrika, I'm sure.
Okay. So tell me the other one. I think I got for the second one. I got the first one, non-duality. Part.
Yeah, obviously
The
non-duality.
phenomena are not
The second
naturally.
one,
Okay, hear
they're
me.
not
Phenomena are not naturally the basis for
imputation of terms
imputation.
and concepts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not naturally the basis.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So in that sense, if you think of that, then that's why they're inexpressible.
Okay.
That's why they're inexpressible reality, because this is the meaning of it.
Sure.
And I think that's the way Sangha explains it in Bodhisattva Bhumi.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Kurangi tanda deyo condition di disigor again. Senza be look shisha chebe na sarwa again. Chög tame tagarang ya chög tame da ko yawar ni chig do again. Chög tame ro again. Jig de ngan zo sa sungjin je sing tongwa sai ko yong da de ro again. Da di chög tame cha ro wa. Jig de chög tame ko ra bu di and chög tam je da ngan zo di be so ma da again. Naturally said that rangshing is so ro again. Any the chada talk with dogje shichag mars din jor bechna khare mar chhe thanje ore adi segoro are chire tön maru betoni a chhe thanje kasoroda chire tön drube wangi the chada talk with dakshi chag mars jor dire impersonal je yor bata ka chada talk be chhe thanje rangshing ge chada talk with dakshi chag mars din jor bechna dinne ke marwa ale sungji jesing ge tongwadi और दी शोक तामे नी बच शाट ओर वे हां ले मोरे तो जो बता आ लो दी ये दी चल yeah because I think because I was translating what you just said about the phenomena are not natural basis. I'm translating as best I could in Tibetan and say if there's something similar word in any text, right, so that be able to be explained. Oh, Seri Chizimba.
He explains it that way, so I'm not sure if much.
I see. Of course, Chizimba did it. Okay, now what Geshe said, that might help you, I don't know, explain, right? Because he said, what is in the Chitta Martin, the true selflessness phenomena? That's what he's getting at, right? The term that, so that might help. Okay, the first one is the non-duality of subject and object, we all know, right? The second one is the absence of externally existing object. That is the selflessness of phenomena too, according to Chitta Martin. That's what he said. Yeah, the absence of.
One of the same thing.
The because chirit because the model was the sungzi jeshing tong was the chipa chipa model so quoi. Tome wash. Okay, did the Yawa Chena again, and the Karasakura Sandra Belushi and the Wagan. You using the jet had a younger down with the Marway. And you may roa, or Tomachi down the Wagga. Any chili turned the Madube, Thomas Robe.
유기랑 제 뭐로 동하다 치료 도저 동하사
Lala.
수수히브 자주 유기랑 제 주에 동
Oh, did look at the or did now have we got his your term right exactly. So says Jajuba Jusherang Senji.
이 주바세 자지 당진 셔로
I think it true.
속세야지 다 유고요 와
I just said in Ranchi to be
어디 누야 되지 똑바 봐야 점지래 소코는 뭐에 담고는 코는 속세 다지야 코는 그 누도 유고를 tipo tava pata mato je sokoran guani sokiba dajua te yo marisi
ala odi
tela jugirang sin tibe tongwa si
or dishuru tong odi ke churga tame shago ro
jigba shago da ko toba ijedo toba ojedo sa ji ko khoa mera ni shago ma 제 가자제 그 가자제 미그 드레 shago jigba
ina koni kasa di churga tame maraba ni shago marwa
shago
ale ine tanda chigba paru gora
tanda chigba
labna de marala ma to
어디로
ale la so
다 도자 지 해다 돼야 뭐도 가자 그도 jigba 그거
gaza chigba be game
가자 지도 jigba 그거
ma the gaza pa kai de chigba be
가 jigba 네가 그거
ale la
수지 대신 그 야지 두개를 또 막으서 저
gaza chigba ale oko taki chadan jod me ba segada dial chano khoji de logo sarwata so that's right. Now that's a long sentence we debate forever, right? It's a mouthful to say even in Tibet. Now we got it right. So that's right. So that's Geshe says that's just a two way of presenting it, but they don't necessarily mean two types of selflessness of phenomena. In terms of presenting it, the non-duality between subject and object, and the naturally phenomena are devoid of being a naturally existent basis for terms and concepts. That one, it's a way of presenting it. But if you get rid of one, the other gets rid of. It's not like different object communication. Right? Yeah. Now we got somewhere there. Thank you.
First of all, this is Saraje Tsumpa identifies them as two different types.
그래서 세례 지진박이 최고 담에게 니 셔고를 단대디 니 카가 셔고를 지진박이
라
세례 지진박이 익자를 단대 최고 담에 니가 카가 일랍 된데 시고 말와 지진박 익자
머리 그런 도자 니니 힘을 뭐 이제 가자 가도 정말 찍바 키고
세례 지진박 익자
지도 뭐 페이지 찍바 이제 가자 페이지 차라 셔기 말에
yeah Geshe not 100% sure he thought maybe they just two ways of looking at it from different angles, but same. Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, the last question, and then we have prayer request. Yeah.
Okay then.
Yeah.
How important is it to keep the 8 precepts in Buddhism?
8 Mahayana precepts one day. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Ala Quran this go le dang zo tekjen sojong yobage. Tekjen sojong ni ma chel ya da ji dong ba she go je chu yo wa. Di nyam le che di ke shu jung kan de ina sa ge. Tekjen sojong. Tekjen sojong dong ba di song ya che di ke shu jung kan de ina sa.
다 계셔 뭐인지 다 병셔 뭐 티버셔 셔주 섬지라 공으로 제일 세모인지.
다다과 체도네 야고로 하게. 이래 니 니마 레레 맞고 똥도 거로 야렌데 고 말거든.
라.
니마 레레 고 양조 레데 마시 산이 니마 샤데 고 메 차도 고.
요 레레.
레데 고 니마 나 봐.
니마 레마 이거 배도 가.
Of course, they are very important. They are especially related to the bodhicitta development, right? But it's the kind of one-day precept we call in English for simplicity that if you could practice every day, it's good. But you have to do it every day, right? Because if you take it today, if the sunshine breaks out tomorrow, it's gone. You have to take it again right? It's not like it continues for days. Are you with me? But it's very important. Of course, it's related to the bodhicitta development. Okay.
Continue to hold precepts,
Huh?
right?
Yeah, the whole precept. Yeah.
Continue that.
Yeah.
Why is it like that then? If why if the next day comes, why do you lose the vows?
Because that's the time you set. From today until next day break, I'm going to take.
So
that's
as
what
long
you
as
said.
so you could set it
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, because in the ritual, right? Just a monk's life is like until I die, right? Then when you die, your monk's vows is gone. You cannot keep it because you said until I die, right? That's the time limit. Yeah.
The
That's
goal
correct.
would be to keep it as long
Okay,
as possible.
Yeah, right. But you can renew it every day. She said that would be very nice, right? If you say next day break, then you again take it, and the next day, right? That would be nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So you
thank
can do it continuously. Okay, Geshe Laramba, prayer request.
Before I read today's prayer requests, we'd like to make an announcement, and this is in regards to the upcoming Vajrayogini self-initiation, or self-initiation, it's also known as. We mentioned something a few weeks ago, but we didn't have the details ready for you. We do have them all ready now. And they'll be posted online on our website this week. But before that, we wanted to take the opportunity to verbally share with you information and details regarding the Vajrayogini self-empowerment coming up. So just in case you didn't have them down last time, the dates and times for the Vajrayogini self-initiation are January 13th, and that is a Tuesday, January 13th, and then Wednesday, January 28th. The start time for both empowerments is 2 p.m. And then the end time for the sessions on both days is 6:30 p.m. So please keep that in your calendars. We'd like to remind everyone that certain requirements must be met in order to partake in the Vajrayogini self-initiation. And all of these details, again, will be in literature on the website, so you can read them just in case you don't get everything I mentioned or I share with you today. But again, because we're all here together, I'll go through a couple of the important points. So in terms of the requirements, one should have two requirements. The first is that one should have received either Herika empowerment or any other highest yoga tantra, highest yoga tantra empowerment. For example, Yamataka or Guya Samaja. And then after having received either Herika empowerment or any other of the highest yoga tantra empowerments, the receiving of the Vajrayogini blessing empowerment from a qualified Vajra master is also part of the first requirement there. So Herika empowerment or highest yoga tantra empowerment, and then on top of that, the Vajrayogini blessing empowerment. The second requirement is that one must have also completed the Vajrayogini retreat and fire puja. So those are the two prerequisites that one must meet in order to participate in the Vajrayogini self-initiation. And we really do assert this and do our best to emphasize how important this is. So if you don't have these fulfilled requirements, you are not allowed to participate in the session. Attendance for both empowerments may be attended both in person and online via Zoom. So we'll have a Zoom link that one may access for those of you participating online. And in order to receive access to this link, one will have to reach out via email to our events email at it's events@gstdl.org. So please email this email account, and we will help you prepare and provide you with access to the link, to the Zoom link. Self-empowerment ritual texts will also be provided for those of you attending the session in person. Physical copies will be provided, and then also PDF versions for those who prefer it, and for those who are participating online. And for those of you who are participating online, the PDF versions of the ritual texts will be sent to you after you contact the events email as well. So let me read the email events account, or I'm sorry, the address one more time. It's events@gstdl.org. So please write that down. Again, all of the information I share with you will be available on our website. So please read through the details again. And then one last note is that His Eminence Gyeltsen Sonrumshe will be attending both these self-empowerment sessions here in person at GSTDL. In regards to Rinpoche's attendance, we would like to strongly emphasize and encourage all attendees to remember that if you're able to attend and come to in person to GSTDL, that's wonderful. But if not, participating online should be seen as equal to attending the sessions in person. So please understand there's no difference between attending the self-empowerment in person or online. And that's what we wanted to share with you. So that's everything that I have in the draft of the event post for now. Please stay close to our website because we will be posting all of the information I just shared with you online, so you have a visual of the information. Prayer requests today. For those who have recently passed, include prayers requested for Teresita via McDowell, whose 49th day was on December 12th. So please keep Teresita via McDowell in your prayers and dedications. May Teresita and those who have excuse me, recently passed be free from all suffering and purified of all negative karma accumulated since beginningless times. May they be reborn with all precious freedoms and endowments. May they meet the Dharma and a qualified guru and quickly achieve liberation and enlightenment. Prayers requested for those who are still with us include prayers for Nguyen Nyat Ka, who is currently in the hospital and suffering from cancer. And prayers also for Jessica Guzman, who is suffering from heavy illness. And then also continued prayers for Gina Hua, who is suffering from a rare form of cancer as well. So please keep Gina, Nguyen, and Jessica in your prayers and dedications. May Gina, Nguyen, and Jessica, and those and all sentient beings be free from all obstacles, hardship, and negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled. May they be guided by the blessings of the three jewels, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness. Tungmi chamju shunga kashisto gen trinity tsele deba Jerusalem via McDonald's okon trone da hajis drogut khazin shegudi chinda jungni betari jungni okon shegu resarba khanji khongi chede ani motune ani tungmana nas tadini sedan demba win nyat kas the Mengan Yorsani, Kensen Nevarisha, the new Jessica Guzman, the Nevarisha, Nishi Sarabur Jessica to Ani, Dinyam Dalia, Ani Gina Huas, Gina Huazi on the soul, Puinibadi, Kensen Nevarisani, Ya, Jumjishubre, the Kong should any motune, to Mananas, or Cronsumi Sumrisha.
Jimjo Teba should do again. Koran mainly Kwan Vos, Lotin to do red wagon. The one in Megana Lani, that me on a some other one. The old hand in my beat was right. That was she do again. But they told us. I have one prayer request received here. Please pray for one Kwan Vo, 76 years old, has been in the hospital for over 2 months. Now they want to remove the ventilator. So please pray for a peaceful passing. Yeah. So we will first do the medicine Buddha salutation and recitation for healing, and then we will do Avalokiteshvara prayer for deceased. Toje wala nyombe jomde zenzang tebe nyendu dunge dozo nese sang Bindu ya ye vela chaze lo om namo bhagavate bekaje guru bindu ya tabaranza ya tadangada ya arahate samya sambuddha ya teta om bekaje ma bekaje ranza samugade so teta om bekaje ma bekaje Teta om bekaje ma bekaje ranza samugade so gawa de nyodo da membe yevon dojo ne dowa chiya de sala gba sho chadong kholu yeve yevo don jendong gewa sambe sa kala kande de la de ba zamba chere se la chaze lo omane be me hon Omane beme honre gawandi nyodo da chere sewan rubjo ne dowa cheja de salam gwe barasho kuch de shenten chushir tanda lami shabden nga de medu odi go chushan de ngal mende go chushan de Yudon beba de gasam phove chudo memba shen de ba zela wando Tony Chugun Jola Sowan de Dame Gunjan Dongwan de Kari Jonso Nenda Sezewa Jangwen Jawa Niwa Yase Tangzo Denze Mawe Shiba Zu Tenzin Shiwe Kingo 谢谢灭鬼常住天地火龙道tam je be 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 六朝家族广多小等说特上广大谢谢装备用着有人特别鸟给行龙的地界那边别头顶行的大波小等说东南方面这把南的两当这位偏的中位些轮着居民西北加上这些领导小等说这些方面头界毛上加上这些连当上面都手上头头些的面边的个领导说多才把面做到南界借用这么说就说这也老做他们到底没些就给我就说那些大学叫我也写着担保准备毕业他的这些用给新年说养着年纪红包晓得今天送给长南北面的那边找我说说的南道水的养到浪巴让一点别多晓得农界养百姓上着南界上进准备在公交写了中就这边电边我到全部晓得这边东王国王不着的这边这帮西域蒙着这边等等那些长者都给住新年全部是这边朗读古信在的是这边查查你做上山上边一年就边说不定新年全部晓得说民众对这种上面实现把老人解决跟着别下面头的全部晓得说世界的头的他们家送边朝南边打仗用着说讲究生着人不这马街把那解决这也把娘我呢共同别我说当你到我人不这马街把那解决这也把娘我呢共同别我说啥西北京出去面到长为了那些年的见过上街行多没得龙威那大新来就把说刚的热为我为新刚做平等的我马为中为接着是往天津就做下为西点八度天就去一当不如热闹你让大家们叫我更多养大老妈的对面去见不要老去萨达满界云的老做逻辑强点我有多
继续